On the hunt for your next shortboard, let's talk about the Firewire Glazer by Rob Machado. Hi guys, Chris from Stoked for Travel here. Welcome back to the channel. Now before I get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any video goodness. Now today we're going to be talking about the Firewire Glazer by Rob Machado, his follow-up to the smash hit that was the Firewire Seaside. We're going to be talking about who it's for, what the board's like, how it is to ride, what waves it suits, and of course how it compares to the Seaside as well. So yeah, let's jump straight in. So who is the Firewire Glazer aimed at? Well, in terms of board category, it sits above the groveler category, but below the performance shortboard category. So there's a few people this board definitely appeals to. The first is people currently riding groveler boards that kind of tap out at shoulder head high and want a board that they can surf in bigger conditions with a little bit more performance. So the Glazer is great for that. The flip side of this is kind of people riding kind of performance mid-lengths or miles, looking to move down in kind of the shorter board realm, but keep the volume underneath them as well. It's another great option for that. The other category that I really think are going to enjoy the Firewire Glazer are surfers that are not kind of technically proficient in terms of big hacks and big cutbacks at the moment, but are confident in bigger surf. So if they want a kind of a shorter board underneath you that you can paddle into kind of bigger waves, kind of shoulder to head high, but you're not busting massive cutbacks at the moment, this is another great board for you to kind of up your performance and get something under your feet that's really going to do what you want it to do. The final category that are really going to enjoy the Firewire Glazer is kind of performance shortboarders that want a higher volume shortboard option. So where you would usually look for kind of a fish board to kind of drop in that size but keep the volume and the fun, the Firewire Glazer is also going to tick the boxes in that respect too. So yeah, those are kind of the main people that are going to love the Firewire Glazer. So what kind of waves does the Firewire Glazer excel in? Well, given the outline and the volume packed into the board, you would be forgiven for thinking the Firewire Glazer was a bit of a groveler, but this really isn't the case. In fact, in kind of smaller, subpar conditions, you're really going to have to work the board to keep your speed and flow, and it definitely isn't a groveler by any degree. The ideal conditions for the Firewire Glazer are kind of chest high to overhead surf. So if you're surfing something a bit kind of punchier, a bit bigger, this is where the Firewire Glazer really comes into its own. The LFT Construction adds to this as well. In my experience, the LFT is definitely designed for kind of bigger wave boards in the Firewire range and don't really work in kind of those subpar, smaller conditions. If you are looking for a kind of short board that's higher volume to use in kind of smaller stuff, I'd look at something like the original Seaside, the Hypto Crypto, DHD Phoenix, or even the Firewire Dominator 2. But when it comes to Firewire Glazer, chest high and above is the way to go. So when it comes to the board breakdown and the tech specs of the Firewire Glazer, it's definitely a high volume shortboard. It starts off at 5.2 at 27.6 litres, running right through to the 6.1 model, which packs in a whopping 45.3 litres. Now for myself, I'm 185 centimeters, so 6 foot and 83 kilos, and I opted for the 5.8 model, which comes in at 35.1 litres. As I've mentioned a few other of my reviews, I do like to add those extra few litres into my board. I like the little bit of extra volume underneath me. So if I took that away, I could have got away with riding the 5.6 or the 5.7 model. But yeah, for me, the 5.8 was really nice underneath me. In terms of paddle power, there's a lot of foam underneath your chest, and the wide point is just forward of the center. So you've got a lot of paddle power in the Glazer, even though it is quite short, and you can kind of go for a few sizes down than what you would usually ride in your day-to-day shortboard. In terms of a rocker and contours, you've got a medium entry and a medium exit rocker in the Firewire Glazer, so it's definitely not a groveler in that respect, and certainly suits bigger surf. Contours of the board, you've got a single concave running through to a double concave, which gets quite aggressive through that final fin box in the thruster setup. And then you've got the rounded tail as well, which gives you those really nice rail-to-rail transitions, a really nice smooth bit of flow, which obviously Rob's pretty famous for. Just keep in mind, you're not going to get the release on this board that you would off, say, something like a squash tail or a fish tail. So like the Dominator 2 or the Firewire Seaside are going to give you a lot more release, but you will have those really nice flowing lines. And yeah, that's the tech spec breakdown of the Firewire Glazer. When it comes to construction, as I've already mentioned, the Firewire Glazer comes in Firewire's LFT Construction. Now this is an epoxy construction like the full Firewire range, But unlike the Helium, which has a balsa stringer running around the outside of the board, this one has an aerospace composite stringer running straight through the center and flexes across that center part, much like a standard PU board. As I mentioned in my Firewire Seaside review, the LFT is not as strong as Helium and is definitely a lot heavier. So in that respect, it definitely handles a bit more like a PU board as well. Over the last couple of months, having ridden the Glazer and also the Firewire Seaside and beyond, LFT really isn't my favorite construction by Firewire at all. I find it's definitely a lot easier to ding, and I've definitely put some pressure dings in both boards through testing them out. But yeah, the LFT construction is what the Firewire Glazer is made from. So as the follow-on from the Firewire Seaside, the quickest comparison people are going to make with the Firewire Glazer is Glazer or Seaside, basically. Whether it's deciding whether it's a complement to the Seaside or deciding whether to grab the Glazer or the Seaside if you can only grab one of the two. I can see why people would want to make this comparison, but when you boil it down, they're two very, very different boards. You've got quad versus thruster, fish versus round tail, and of course LFT versus Helium as well. So it's going to really come down to where you want the board to sit in your quiver, what kind of level of surfer you are, and kind of what kind of experience you want from your board as well. Personally, when comparing the two, the Seaside for me wins hands down every time. I just found it a lot more fun to ride. It was much more durable with that Helium construction, and I could surf it in a bigger, wider range of conditions. So when it comes to deciding the two, personally, I'm in the Seaside camp. There's a lot of people who would still kind of prefer the Glazer if you want something for bigger conditions that's a little bit shorter. But for me, I just found I had way more fun and surfed a bit better on the Seaside as well. So yeah, when it comes down to me, Seaside wins out. And now down to the nitty gritty of it, my final thoughts on the Firewire Glazer. Now, after the success of the Firewire Seaside and how much I enjoyed surfing that board, I had really high hopes for the Firewire Glazer. However, the board fell slightly short of my expectations, and personally, I really didn't gel with it. Unlike things like the Dominator 2 or even the original Seaside, I felt I had to work the board a lot more to maintain my speed and flow. In that respect, I just didn't enjoy surfing it as much. Also, the conditions that it's suited for, kind of that like chest to overhead conditions, I felt like I was going to grab some of my other boards out of my quiver first before considering the Firewire Glazer. So in that respect, it's not really the board for me. I know it's going to suit a lot of people who have that kind of style and flow and want to surf a kind of a shorter board with a bit of extra volume and bigger surf. But for me, it just didn't tick the boxes. Still a great board, but yeah, not for me. And there you have it, guys. That's my full review of the Firewire Glazer. Now, if you're looking for any other board reviews, my full written review of the Glazer, or of course the rest of the Firewire range, make sure you check out the links in the description below for all my blog guides. And of course, check out the rest of my YouTube channel for heaps of reviews and advice as well. That's it for this week, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.